in work settings, right? Offices and outlets and things like that. So Microsoft had a monopoly over the Windows operating system, and it could charge whatever it wanted for it, right? There was no closed substitute. OS X wasn't where it is now, and these open source things that I'm not smart enough for weren't competitive. So Windows was the name of the game, and if you recall, there was a time when you actually paid money for operating systems. Windows, the full version, ran something like $300-400 easy, right, for one license. So the notion here is we have one firm selling a good with no closed substitute. What that means is there's not multiple individual firms that have their supply curves with marginal cost above minimum average variable cost. But here, there's one firm that produces the entire market output, so that we don't have to aggregate individual firm supply curves. There's one firm that produces aggregate output that faces the entire market demand. So this picture in perfect competition where we added up 100 firms individual supply curves and 100 consumers individual demand curves and then they met in the market is no longer true. You still have the 100 consumers, but now you only have one firm, and that firm can actually set price. So the question then becomes, where should that firm set price? The answer to that is the firm should set price where it maximizes profit, right? So the firm, the monopolist, faces the entire downward sloping market demand curve if it is downward sloping, and if it increases its price away from where marginal cost equals price, it doesn't lose all sales. So the notion here is Microsoft couldn't possibly charge $1 million for each copy of Windows. They'd be out of business in no time, but they can charge more than what the perfectly competitive price probably was, which was in the $50 range, right, or somewhere near there. So this is kind of neat, right, but I don't really know how to think about this particular problem. So let's go work through it, and let's figure out what the optimal output quantity for a monopolist is, and then figure out what the welfare consequences of that actually are. So this is interesting. Okay? This is interesting in the sense that before, market price just came out of equilibrium. Quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, so the individual firm has this horizontal residual demand curve, the flat one we always saw. But now, the firm faces the downward sloping demand curve, so it can ramp up price a little bit. It'll lose sales if it does so, but it gets more dollars per unit sold if it charges that higher price. So the perfectly competitive firm, if one farmer raises his price of wheat and nobody else does, the farmer will sell 0 units. It loses all sales. He or she loses all sales. Versus the monopolist, if he or she raises prices, it loses some sales, but not all. So it has to dance that dance of, is the amount of money per unit I get if I sell fewer units high enough to make it worth my while to reduce output, right? So there's a trade-off there that we're going to look at. So the rule for a profit-maximizing firm was pretty simple, okay? The rule for a profit-maximizing firm was marginal revenue equals marginal cost, right? You remember that. You've now memorized price equals marginal cost. That's true for a perfectly competitive firm, but for a perfectly competitive firm, marginal revenue, the additional number of dollars you take in if you produce one more unit is just price. Versus now, for the monopolist, I'm going to show you something you'll hate because it's really hard to understand, but you can hack it, is as the monopolist changes his or her output, marginal revenue also changes. It's not just price, all right? The price that the monopolist gets per unit changes. So let's think about marginal revenue. We haven't really thought about our friend marginal revenue in a while. For the perfectly competitive firm, you sell one more unit, you get T more dollars. For each unit you sell, you get T dollars per unit. So each additional unit you sell, you get the same amount. True for all units, so average revenue and marginal revenue are the same. They're just equal to competitive price because you don't have influence over price. For the monopolist, price is no longer exogenous, right? Exogenous means beyond your control. In fact, the monopolist controls price. The perfectly competitive firm had no control over price. The market controls price. But the monopolist, by choosing his or her quantity, can figure out where on the demand curve he or she wants to be. So the thing now that becomes tricky is that average revenue always is and always was price times quantity over quantity, right? For the perfectly competitive firm, price was just a parameter. It was constant, right? It was set by the market. Now it gets tricky, and this is where you can see that math is going to be a lot of fun, because we all love math. Now price is no longer a fixed number of $5, right? Depending on what Q is, price is going to be different. So if you sell more, you're going to be on a point further down the demand curve, price is going to be lower. If you sell less, you're going to be on a point higher up on the demand curve, you're going to charge more. So average revenue is price, which is a function of quantity, times quantity, divided by quantity. So average revenue is just, again, price, right? Same thing as in the perfectly competitive model. The only difference for the perfectly competitive model is that price was constant versus for the monopolist, that price changes on its output. Now what I'm going to show you, and this is going to drive you a little bit crazy, is that marginal revenue is going to be different from price, all right? And this is where it gets tricky. So let's figure this one out. Deep breaths. Dollars, quantity. So I can write little q or big Q. It doesn't matter for the monopolist. The monopolist produces market output, so you could use lowercase or bigger case. It doesn't matter. There's only one firm. Okay, I'm going to draw a demand curve that looks like this, okay? So this is demand. I'm for once going to label my axis. Okay, also going to label output here. So what I want to figure out is for different price quantity combinations along this demand curve is what's total revenue, right? And then I'm going to increase output by 1, and I'm going to see what happens to total revenue, and then calculate marginal revenue from these moves. Okay, so let's say we are let's say you're selling 1 unit at $9. Okay, so if this point A right here, you sell 1 unit at $9, that means your total revenue is 9 times 1 is $9. Now I'm going to ramp up output to 2 units. So the way I've drawn the demand curve here is with a slope -1. So now I'm selling 2 units, right? So let this be B here. You sell 2 units at now no longer $9, right? You're a monopolist. You're facing the entire demand curve, so the price you get per unit is now $8. So you get $16 in total revenue. So total revenue went up, right? It went from $9 to $16. So the marginal revenue of going from 1 unit to 2, the marginal revenue from 1 to 2 units is going to be, you went from 9 to 16, the marginal revenue is $7, I hope. Right? Great, Max. I'm bored already. I'm falling asleep. It's sunny outside. Move on. All right. How about we look at what happens at a price of $3? You're selling 7 units. Call this C. Sell 7 units. math. Well, now you're selling a lot, so you're only getting $3 per unit. So total revenue, $21. Total revenue is $21. So this here is a pathetic 3. Okay, $3. Now, one more. How about if you sold 8 units? Point B here, total revenue is $2 times 8 units, $60 in total revenue. So marginal revenue of going from 7 to 8, you had 21, now you have 16. Marginal revenue is minus 5. What just happened? That seems crazy, right? For the perfectly competitive firm, marginal revenue was constant. It was just price, right? Independent of what I sold, it was just the price. Now what you're telling me, Max, is that as I go from A to B, right here, I had, 9 times 1, $9 of revenue. Now 2 times 8, $16 of revenue. Marginal revenue seems to be positive up here. So if I sell more, I get more units versus down here. Now if I sell 7 units at 3 each, I have $21. Now if I produce 1 more unit, I produce 8 at $2, I have 16. Marginal revenue is different and it's negative. So you can play this game for any point on this demand curve, and you will see that I'm right, which is always true, right? The notion here is pretty simple. Let's think about this in terms of squares, okay? Or rectangles. So total revenue, when I was selling 1 unit at $9, was this blue thing here, right? It's 9 units tall and 1 unit wide. Now, if I increase output, total revenue goes to $8 per unit, but over 2 units. So it's the size of this rectangle right here. So total revenue at D is the red area. So I gain something and I lose something, right, in terms of rectangles here. I gain this, right, this is a gain, and I lose this. So what do you mean by gain and lose, right? You sell 1 more unit, so you're gaining whatever the revenue is at the new price is from selling that additional unit. So new price is 8 times that 1 unit, so that's a gain that you didn't sell before. But since you charge the same price for every unit, right, you don't get to charge 9 for the first unit and 8 for the second, you're now selling that old unit for $1 less than you previously sold it. Before you sold it for 9, now you sold it for 8. So you're losing $1 up here, but you're gaining 8 down here. So 8 minus 1 is 7. Now let's do the same graph again, but let's do it for the bigger output region right here, right? So now, total revenue is $3 times 7 units, so that's $21. After the increase in output now, total revenue is the red box right here. It's 8 times 2 is 16. What happened at the higher output level now is something really tricky, right? You gained this little rectangle right here. This little rectangle is 1 more unit at whatever the now very, very low price is, right, at $2. So this thing here, that's your gain. And this thing up here is your loss, right? Because your price drops for $1 for all the units you've sold already. So you're selling 8 units already, so price drops by $1 for each unit, and you're only gaining 1 unit's worth of additional very low price. So marginal revenue here is actually negative because you're gaining $2 on that additional unit you sell, but for the previous 7 units you lose $1 each, so 2 minus 7 would get minus 5. So while this doesn't seem intuitive yet, the one takeaway message I want to give you for now, and we're going to keep on going, I have 4 minutes left, is marginal revenue along a regular old demand curve is not constant, right? It's not a number, it changes. Now, because I'm never confident in my ability to draw this picture in a clear way, I employed my ability to draw pictures badly digitally, and this is what happens when you do that, because this is all the information that we really need on here. This is the same picture I just drew, only I gave you A and B. A was the yellow area, B was the green area. That's the gain versus the loss. Here again, B versus B, gain versus the loss. It just shows you, as you walk down the demand curve, you lose the horizontal rectangle and you gain the vertical rectangle. But as you move down the demand curve, the size of the horizontal rectangle gets ever bigger because you're using more and more units, and the size of the vertical rectangle gets ever smaller. Now, what is marginal revenue, okay? So what I want to show you quickly, and then we'll call it a day, is just the mathematical way to think about marginal revenue. Okay, so marginal revenue is just the change in total revenue over the change in quantity, right? And change in total revenue is just the change in price times quantity over the change in quantity. We also have to remember, for those of you who loved calculus in high school, that price is a function of quantity here. So we've got something we've all loved. Remember the chain rule? Oh, yeah, it was awful. It's actually really not that bad, right? I'm not expecting you to do this. I just want you to relate this calculus thing to this picture I showed you, and then we're good, okay? So I always like to take the easy one first. So change, let me just tell you what the answer is. P plus change, P is change into time. Okay, this is the answer. If you did some sort of calculus. What does this mean, okay? What this means is pretty simple. And there's a minus there somewhere. Whatever, doesn't really matter. The point here is, marginal revenue is just the change in total revenue due to the change in quantity, and that can be given as P plus change in PQ times Q. So as you move down, you lose for 1 unit, so you gain for 1 unit what price is, and you lose for all the units you're producing the change in price for those units. So that first term P right there is your vertical box. The second term, change in P over change in Q times Q, is the area of the horizontal box. So as you wander along the demand curve, the relative size of these boxes changes, and marginal revenue drops along the demand curve. So next time I'll show you what this means for a linear demand curve, but in between that and now is an exam that you should probably focus on more than studying this, all right? I will see you at the review session or in office hours today.